Greetings again, my perceptive purple people. Before we begin, I would like to thank all of you who truly got involved in the comments and discussions in the comments section of our last video. I am incredibly appreciative of those who posted their intelligently considered responses and questions. I am looking forward to your suggestions and debates for guidance on this subject, as well as many others we'll discuss, as we continue over the next several years. Opposition viewpoints continue to be welcome, though you may want to be prepared for a vigorous defense and response. Today, we're going to be talking about concealed weapons. Now, to clarify, we are referring to weapons that one would conceal upon oneself for personal defense. We are not discussing weapons of war and the like. That, of course, is a separate discussion that we briefed in the last segment. But before we leave that question to the first video, I would point out the obvious question of why open carry of that kind is a provocative nature in a civilized society and could be where one draws the line on this. One really could argue both sides on this, so what do you think? You know the routine on that, so let's move on. All the way back in 1764, Cesare Beccaria wrote in his treatise of crimes and punishments, a principal source of errors and injustice are false ideas of utility. He goes on in the next paragraph. The laws of this nature are those which forbid to wear arms, disarming only those who are not disposed to commit the crime which the laws mean to prevent. Can it be supposed that those who have the courage to violate the most sacred laws of humanity and the most important of the code will respect the less considerable and arbitrary injunctions, the violation of which is so easy and of so little comparative importance? Now, why do I quote this particular crusty old author? Well, this particularly crusty old author was instrumental in our founding fathers' creation of this country's founding documents and principles. It's also a very good warning of laws of false utility, hence the name of the chapter. In other words, and this may come as a surprise to some people that saw the last segment of this episode, the right of the citizens to be able to keep and bear arms for personal protection and defense should include being able to carry it in a concealed fashion in the general public domain. Therefore, in the absence of a justifiable cause to not do so, a carry concealed weapons permit should be issued without any sort of needs test requirement. As for open carry, as much as I have no personal issues with the issue, it can cause quite a bit of a kerfuffle when you go into your local Starbucks. Open carry should be limited to less populated areas where people don't be as immediately concerned when they see someone carrying a firearm on their hip without a badge on their chest. As for open carrying of assault-type weapons, well, that kind of goes back to our first video on this subject now, doesn't it? Let's traipse on to the NRA. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Do I agree with the NRA says about a good guy being the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun? Well, obviously, the statement is an absolute, which by its very nature renders it suspect of being a logical fallacy, although it could be rendered less so by replacing the only with one or a. As I'm certain that we would all prefer that the bad guy never committed the crime in the first place and thus rendered the armed good guy unnecessary. Such an idea is an obvious last resort versus many other options leading up to that point. The statement is thus rendered illogical. But with all of that logical consideration stated, however, I'm afraid I must agree that a trained good guy with a gun is an excellent acute defense against a bad guy with a gun in the heat of an active shooter incident. And to that end, I say the more the merrier. The more trained citizens that are able to carry, the less comfortable crazed criminals will feel about suddenly opening up with gunfire in crowded areas. And no, although this position may appear to contrast with the position stated in our last segment about weapons of war, it actually remains in logical line with our position on the Second Amendment. Remember, the Second Amendment's second half does, indeed, allow for private citizens to be able to protect and defend. Again, in line with the Second Amendment's position regarding regulation, it would seem intelligent for the purchaser of any particular weapon to have to be trained in its proper usage. No, I'm not saying they can't have or even carry a weapon, merely that they got to know how to use the damn thing. and preferably how not to. What are your thoughts on this? Are you surprised by the initial purple position here? How do you think we should nuance this position, if at all? Please do put your thoughts in the comments section below for a well-cogitated debate. I thank you for taking a little time out of your very busy day to join me here, and we'll see you in the next segment on this subject real soon.